Hello grade 8, this is teacher Anna, and today we're going to discuss the topic Use Basic Tools in Embroidery. This video tutorial is made from your learning module in TLE 8 Handicraft Quarter 1 Week 1. So bring out your learning module and follow me in exploring the world of embroidery. Our objectives for this session are: number 1, identify the basic tools and materials in embroidery. Number 2, familiarize with the different embroidery stitches. Before the lesson, let's have some warm-up questions. I have here 2 questions for you to answer. Number 1, the only tools used in embroidery are needle and thread. Do you think the statement is true or false? Very good. That statement is false. Next question, number 2. There are various embroidery stitches which you can choose from which you do embroidery work. Do you think the statement is true or false? Correct. That statement is true. Let us define embroidery. Embroidery is a craft of decorating fabric or other materials using a needle to apply thread or yarn. The term embroidery is an English word derived from the Old French embroiders, meaning edge and border. Because of the fast growth of the industry, elegance of designs, and fineness of workmanship, Filipinos export articles with embroidery work. Embroidery work is best achieved if correct tools and materials are used. Here are the common tools and materials used in embroidery. The first tool is embroidery needle. There are 3 types of embroidery needle, such as tapestry, chenille, and crewel needle. What is tapestry needle? Tapestry needles have a blunt point and a large eye or oval eye, elongated eye for easy threading, and blunt points glide smoothly through the holes in your fabric without splitting the threads. Sizes range from 18 to 28. Next is chenille needle. Chenille needle has a large eyes and very sharp points. The eye are large enough to accommodate ribbon and other thick yarn. Sizes is 13 to 24. Next one. Next is crewel needles. They have long narrow eyes with a very sharp point. They are of medium length. This is usually what we use as normal embroidery needles. They come in sizes 1 to 10. Next is fabric. A fabric is a material used in embroidery. It is also known as cloth of great variety, and they differ in materials, weave, weight, design, color, and finish. There are three types of fabric. One is even weave, the other one is common weave, and the basket weave. Even weave is any textile where the warp and weft threads are of the same size. Common weave has the same diameter, warp, and shot wires woven in a simple over and under pattern. What is basket weave? It is a group of warp and weft threads that are interlaced so that they form a simple crisscross pattern. Another tools used in embroidery is gauge. A gauge is a ruler typically 6 inches long and used for measuring short spaces. Embroidery hoop is a tool used to keep the fabric taut while working with embroidery or other forms of needlework. Next is tape measure. It is a flexible ruler used to measure sizes or distances. Embroidery scissors. A special type scissors used to cut sewing thread or multiply embroidery thread and specially designed with long, thin, pointy tips to cut threads in tight areas accurately and with a clean, sharp cut. Thimble. A small, hard, fitted cup worn for protection on the finger that pushes the needle in sewing. Needle threader. A device used to put a thread through the eye of a needle. Next, pin cushion. It is a small stuffed cushion, typically 3 to 5 cm across, used in sewing to store pins or needles, with their heads protruding to take hold of them easily, collect them, and keep them organized. Pounce. A fine powder for making stenciled patterns. Tracing paper. A thin paper containing a clothing pattern to be transferred to fabric as through carbon paper by tracing. Watercolor brush. Used to transfer the design in pricking and pouncing method. Bag. Used to keep some small sewing tools when not in use. Sewing box. A container that is designed to hold sewing equipment and accessories. Let's talk about embroidery stitches. There are various stitches which you can choose from as you do embroidery work. Here are some of the embroidery stitches that will help and guide you as you enjoy with your lovely craft. First is the back stitch. Commonly used for outlining a design, forms the base of the embroidery stitches. Next, running stitch. Considered as the easiest stitch used for outlining a design. Number 3, cross stitch. The most popular embroidery stitch in which form an X-shaped pattern. used for making borders and to fill in the design area. Number 4. Chain stitch. One of the popular stitches in which the series of loop stitch form a chain-like pattern, good for filling the design area. Seed stitch, also known as seeding stitch, rice grain, or isolated box stitch. It is used to fill in the design area. Next, satin stitch. Solid long straight stitches work very closely together, used to cover the design area. French knot stitch. A single detached stitch that is used to create the eyes of an embroidered face or center of a flower. Bullion stitch. A single detached stitch that is used to fill in the design area. Rows of each stitches are also used to create an outline of a design. Herringbone stitch. A basic overlapping stitch that is used for making borders. Split stitch. Done using thick thread, which is used for outlining or filling in the design area. Stem stitch. Used for outlining the flower stems, rows of stitches can be used to fill in the design area. Lacy daisy chain stitch, known as detached chain stitch. It is used to make loops resembling the petals of a flower. Feather stitch, a stitch with loops evenly done on both sides of the design area. Fishbone stitch, a kind of stitch which is ideal for making leaves or feathers. The pattern is divided into two. Each side is filled alternately, giving it a flated effect on the center. Loop stitch, used for making borders and can be experimented with different colors of thread to create a wonderful effect. Now, let's have some recap. What is embroidery? Embroidery is a craft of decorating fabric or other materials using a needle to apply thread or yarn. It is one of the most well-known handicrafts. The handcrafted embroidery stitches catch the attention of many people because of its intricate details. Embroidery design can be personalized and illustrated by using a variety of thread or yarn colors, which make the embroidery article more appealing and elegant. What are the common tools and materials needed in embroidery work? Crewel needle, fabric, gauge, embroidery hoop, tape measure, embroidery scissors, thimble, needle threader, pin cushion, pounce, tracing paper, watercolor brush, bag, and sewing box. What are the different embroidery stitches? The different embroidery stitches are back stitch, running stitch, cross stitch, chain stitch, seed stitch, French knot, bullion, satin stitch, herringbone, split stitch, stem stitch, feather, lacy daisy chain, fishbone, and loop stitch. At this point, turn your learning module on activity part on page 5 to 6. Remember, avoid erasure. For activity number 1, directions, complete the word or group of words with the appropriate letter or letters to reveal the right tool or materials used in embroidery. For activity number 2, directions, name the following embroidery stitches. Okay, number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Number 7, 8, 9, and 10. I am giving you 10 minutes to finish the activities. And for your wrap-up activity, just provide a brief explanation to answer questions in number 1 and 2. Number 1, what do you think are the reason why people do embroidery? Number 2, what do you need to get started with embroidery? You have any questions? I hope you learned something today. If you have a questions or clarification regarding the topic we discussed, feel free to ask through text or call, or just post your questions in our official group chat.